Welcome to the Experience Edge. This is your guide to the sharpest ideas in customer experience. In this episode, I sit down with Khayyam Lasi from Autodesk to dig into the world of journey management inside the company. We're looking at why service design, the practice built on connecting the dots, so rarely connects its own people, and what has changed as it transformed into journey management today. Kai shares his principles like search before you create, the rule that kills duplicate research in 5 minutes. And we also talk about the moment a PM nearly cried when he finally saw a capability map of the whole experience. Kai went deep, but he is also a big proponent of evangelizing and sharing his work. So I'm digging into the skills and agents that he's actually building today so you can use them as well. So my guest today is Khayyam Lasi. He's the Journey Management Program Lead at Autodesk, and many people know him by the name of Kai. Kai's career has been far from linear. He's been moving from actuarial science into customer experience after discovering a stronger passion for people and solving complex problems. He went on to build deep expertise in customer support, CX leadership, and now customer journey management across Toronto startups, Scotiabank, and now at Autodesk. But what I love about how he's combining his analytical thinking, service design, and operational discipline to help organizations build like a more effective and accountable customer journey, or like the practice around this, which I'm sure we're going to get into today. Most importantly, he's been foundational to the scaling journey management practice at Autodesk, which is why I wanted to get him on today, because he has basically helped them and the team to transform the way they work. So Kai, very nice that you can finally join me on the spot.
Thank you so much, Jochem. It's an honor to be here. It's one of my dreams to be on this podcast, so finally here.
Bucket list, check.
Bucket check, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I did not know I can make that happen, but that's also a bucket list for me. So thank you again for being here. But I want to start with something spicy because you've been very critical about service design lately. And basically, and please correct me if I'm wrong, your point is that for practice, it's connecting the dots. Why is no one talking to each other? Like for a field that's all about facilitation and connecting the dots, like bringing everyone together. That's a real problem.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Thank you for asking that question, and your observation is true. I've been critical of, I think the practice is great, but that's why I'm here. That's why I believe in the practice so well, because it has enabled me a lot to have structured conversations and everything else. So a couple of things here. What I've noticed, and I've worked at big organizations and startups as well, and it's big organizations generally have a lot of people, so there is fragmentation by design, right? Service design works a lot well when there is fragmentation to solve for. So but when I see multiple service design teams in an organization, I find that they don't talk to each other. And I mean, if you're talking about the customers are the same across the organization. If you're talking about customer experience, then the experience is the same for that same customer. So if a service designer is working on one part of that journey, then it makes sense that that part will impact the other service designer's part of the journey, because projects are broken down into domains or the kind of offerings companies are creating, which was true in the bank I worked on, true for Autodesk as well. So, but then I find that people kind of want to specialize in that one part of the journey they focus on and not think about the rest of the journey, which is why I thought journey management is the way forward, because then you're thinking about the horizontal experience, even if you are siloed into your project, right? So it's almost like the fragmentation and the silos of the organization have impacted the service design practice within them. And the sphere for me is that people get impacted. You're a service designer in a big company for 15 years. There is no way that you weren't a changed person or a changed collaborator after working in a silo for so long. Organizational politics plays a big role in it. Hey, don't talk to that team. Hey, let's keep our work apart. These are real things people don't necessarily talk publicly about. And I feel like these are important things to change, because this keeps us from doing good work, sharing openly, and actually having a noticeable difference on the customer's experience.
Yeah, my take is that service designers start from the business, usually with the business challenge, right? But that's the only thing they think about when they think about the business, right? And then it's all about like thinking about how the whole ecosystem works together, how like service blueprints are being put together, and it's almost like lip service to service design rather than really thinking about what the practice is in general and why it exists. But what we're seeing now, journey management, or like the use of journeys as like a way to organize people, to organize data, to get decisions done across different teams, across different functions, like that's by definition something for service design. And yet not everyone is jumping on the bandwagon. People like you are. I mean, you're not necessarily a trained service designer, but many of the people in service design aren't. So what I'm seeing is true. What you're describing is like there are a larger group of people in service design that are embracing this and are bringing this perspective in. But there's also almost like the evangelists of the past, what used to be like service design, and then following it like specifically how the books were written and how it all was set up. Yeah. And those are the people that necessarily are not doing, I think, service design justice today. Is that a fair assessment of like what you're describing?
I would say in that in my experience, like again, this is coming from someone who had no idea about what the evangelist looks like, but I've met them now. Like now that I'm deeper into this practice, I do meet people who are like, oh, like, journey management, what is that? Like, is that even like relevant? Service design is a bigger field. And sure, like I'm not gonna get into what is big and what is small. Like I don't see things like that, right? Service from journey management is an operating system, which is crucial to bring service design to organizations. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it's the wild, wild west. Literally, it's the wild west. So just to finish your thought on the evangelist, you need someone who can level set with the evangelist and show them the value for journey management, right? So I've had some success in that. I'm really happy about that and sometimes I haven't had success in that. I have met service designers who are completely going to be like, yeah, this is not for us, or we are doing journey management, just not in XYZ tool. We're just doing a fragmented journey management thing. We are creating our maps somewhere. We are managing the opportunities somewhere else, but we are doing journey management as a practice. But the way I see journey management, the way I think it should be done, as the operating system is missing. Some people get it, some people don't. The people who get it are much happier than becoming. They are the people who I really lean on and to bring with me in two rooms. To like, a new convert is a better salesperson for the other people I need to convert, right? Like when you're new to a religion, you're gonna be so excited about. Like when I was new to service design, I'm not jaded at all. I love the field, so I'm talking about it almost as like toxic positivity sometimes. Like even journey management, I can be very positive without really thinking about, oh, people might have certain challenges. I'm just really positive about it. And that's what you need sometimes, just to galvanize something, just to one or two people who are really excited and want to drive something forward. So yeah, I'm not sure if that answered.
Well, why do you think a different take on like the way a company operates is actually getting a foothold? I mean, Autodesk is known for being like technology forward and very large company, like not an easy one to change from the inside. So why do you think it's actually holding strong, and why all these disciplines are participating now and like walking from the customer journey, changing the way they are prioritizing, seeing how they're achieving results together? Like, what has changed? Like, you've done this for 6 years now. Like, what's the biggest delta from like day one and day, what is it?
So I've done it for 6 years between two different companies. I was at a bank, one of the biggest banks in Canada, and now at Autodesk, right? So Autodesk is a design company, right? Like when I was coming from the bank, like there was like one small experience design team, or maybe three service design teams that were very small, and they were actually trying to sell service design to the organization. Right? Coming into Autodesk, like you throw like a stone and you'll find an experienced designer. You'll hit an experienced designer somewhere in the organization. There's so many, which is awesome because the practice is more mature. People understand journey management as a practice. The tooling and like the operating system is still new to people because like there's so much disruption happening with AI as well in the field. So that's still, but when I joined Autodesk, like the change, number one, I was the only person at the time with the title journey manager in their job. Now we have many people who have that title in journey manager in their jobs actually. So that's a big change. There's a hiring strategy in some teams. I wouldn't say all of Autodesk, but some teams have leadership buy-in to think about hiring journey management professionals because not there is buy-in. But like there have been key players who have managed up, right? Who have like in real moments of like cross questioning about the practice's worth or should we do this or not, there has been a few leaders who have really fought the fight and managed up and shown value and hired the right people. And over the last like 3.5 years, I've seen the word spread. And then people who like you cast a wide net in the organization. So you actually meant it's a huge organization. Chances are there will be some people that will catch on to it, right? In those some people, you'd be very lucky if there's some leaders apart from your own leaders who also see the value. And we were lucky with that. Like one of the things that I really love doing is again I talk about it everywhere I go. Try to do internal conferences. Came to like the conference last year in Barcelona. Um, Join local communities, show up in Autodesk internal design communities and just talk about journey management and show them what we have built, share learning and enablement documentation, share our SharePoint site, and that gets people excited that oh, there's an actual practice which is governed. Like the one thing that people really like, the practice without governance does not appeal to most people. Most people want there to be that level of psychological safety that yeah, there is someone who's thinking about this at a more deeper architectural level, and now whatever we are working on could make sense in the context of the entire organization. That's what most of us want. When we have created that and we've spent quite a bit of time to understand that architecture, people are very like it just resonates with them.
Talk to me about the architecture, because I know why it's important, but what I'm seeing is that shifting from like a functional organization where architecture means more like how technology is cobbled together. What you're describing is more like let's take the journey, the customer journey, and use that as a backbone for our architecture. How we bring people together, how we actually like understand our data in a new light. But not everyone cares about this, and especially when you add that to governance or like how it's governed. Not everyone will be excited about that. People in business leadership positions will think like, yeah, okay, fine. If that gets me a better result faster, I'll take it. But otherwise, I don't care about that. And yet, you need to do this at some scale to really reap the benefits from it, right? You can't stay, to your point, like on a project level, because then, you can just put a journey on a map and hang it on a wall, let a bunch of people look at it, and then we're happy. But you're describing is more like, no, in some parts of the organization, you need like this architecture to be fully in place. You need to trust a group of people that is like managing that, governing that, so that it's in place, so that others can do their work. So how do we go from like, okay, service design, not necessarily great practice, to, okay, journey management might be the operating system, to like now actually like on the architectural level, thinking about how an organization should function?
Definitely, you need a group of people in the initial phases to understand the current ecosystem of the company. What is the current architecture, which includes what are the industries we are in, what are the different types of customers we are tackling, Are we B2B, B2C, or both? Very important because strategies are completely different, and most companies are trying to be both. Um, and kind of map that as a journey of your organization. Try to understand, create like a heat map of the architecture of your organization. You will start, and then within an organization, try to then layer on the journeys that have already been mapped. Pretty quickly, this exercise in itself starts showing you where we have indexed our experiences. Where have we under-indexed? What are the personas we've mapped? What are the personas we've not mapped? What are the dark spots or the places where we have zero visibility versus the places that we have a lot of visibility, right? Like, and that is the making of a current state architecture. But the main thing that really moves it forward is a shared understanding of that architecture. We might think that someone who's been working in the organization for 20 years might know a lot, and they might, but they might not know how it's all connected. Journey management as a practice relies on that through line, relies on connecting, not just what we hear about the customer and how we solve for it, but what is the impact to us in the organization? How have we changed ourselves in an effort to change the customer or change or improve the customer's experiences? Like, and that you almost need to have like a side-by-side service blueprint of the customer's experience and the organization's experience, both, because both are very like connected. One is not independent of the other. So at a very high level, we started now very lucky to be at Autodesk in that sense that people actually already cared about this stuff. And I joined, it was a movement that was beginning, like we were looking at our data in terms of the customer's life cycle, all of that. And it's now like everybody's talking about it. Um, so I'm really blessed to be here in that sense. People already generally are thinking in that direction, but then how does it all connect? We are in the next level of that. Okay, we are changing so many experiences. We have customer lifecycle ready data. How does one change in one of the phases impact, has a downstream, upstream impact? What is it? And how does it impact? Now that's the future forward thinking. And that's journey management, really, at a very massive organizational level. Um, Now, do we have a way that everybody comes together to share their findings? No, because there's just too many people, right? So we're trying to think about how do we share out the things that we are learning so that more people are connected in this thread. And now we are able to now look at the ideal case, at least for me, would be to be able to see how the architecture at the company is evolving. Like soon there's going to be some life cycle phases in the customer that are not going to exist at all, right? Like if you think about general life cycle phases, customers discovers your product, they try it, they buy it. One phase here, like the whole trial experience might not actually exist. Or the whole discovery experience might not. AI will change a lot of that. Like it will either expedite it to the fact that the timeline within which a customer finds you out and buys your product is so small that you don't even need to map that experience anymore. And like I'm just mentally preparing for that kind of disruption. So it's very important to understand where we are today. What are the timelines within which people have these experiences that allows them to move forward, and what do we need to change about that to be able to get in with the times, right? There's companies that are doing their entire business on their mobile phone. Are we building for like seriously? Like, and these are in places that we call the third world, but if you go and look at how people do business in like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, they have their entire business on their phone. And they're like designing and making everything, right? So are we prepared for that? Like that, it works differently in North America, it works differently in Europe, works differently in South Asia, the Middle East. So we have to really understand, like we need to have an architecture that accommodates, especially for global businesses. Like they need to have an architecture that accommodates that.
Maybe it's natural to you, but for many people listening, like I think like we're glossing over like the steps you've made. It's like first, it was like, okay, let's do this whole mapping, right? Let's index our experiences. Let's
Yeah.
bring all of it together. Let's look at how we think about how we are organized. Let's think about how the life cycle of our customer actually happens, where we have these like interactions and where we basically have all these experiences. And heat mapping, where we don't have these experiences. Okay, so that's like the mapping stage, if I may. And
Mhm.
then you go into like, okay, we got pockets of data here, but now at some point we reach like a state where we have life cycle data across the business from all these different parts of the product, from all these different services, like everywhere,
Yeah.
everyone is aligned to this. Like, wonderful. But I think what you're saying is actually like the next phase. Okay, journey management used to be like the process of getting that all in place and then feeding people with these insights and like support their decision making. But now it's an architecture which almost implies like you're ready for the next phase. And I think like that's literally what's happening in many organizations, that now that's in place, you don't need like admins to do all the admin work. I mean, that's still
Mhm.
part of it.
Mhm.
But what is actually happening is like, what can you design? What can you create so that that architecture can be used? And that is changing completely now that we have AI supporting us in our work. And maybe like that's a good place to go on to next, because yes, the end customer experience will change. I mean, I couldn't speak for you how architects are buying CAD software or like how builders are doing that like from their mobile phone. I'm not sure if that's going to be like reality pretty quickly, but nevertheless, everything is changing on that side. But so is the way you're organized internally. So what is next for how you are thinking about this? So and maybe like if I haven't summarized it correctly, like going from like the mapping stage to the management stage to now going beyond, like what's next? Like what are you and your teams now achieving next? Like how are you thinking about that? And what role does AI play in actually like supporting so many different functions and teams at the skill that you work at?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's two questions there, right? Like, what's our next phase of the practice, and how's AI kind of disrupting, changing, enabling that? I'll take a step back before that, because even though, yes, we are ready for the next phase, if you look at the operating system that we have in place, which you are aware of, like, but the one place that I do find the entire journey management industry and service design industry need to focus on is a shared community of practice. We don't have that. We don't have a forum where people, experts from across industries, are coming together and talking about these, like, how are they bringing people together. Some people might actually be doing it and are really successful at that. I have no idea who they are. I would like to know if someone is able to bring all of these opinionated service designers into one room and make them agree on one thing. If you have done that, you deserve an award, and I need to know how you did it. Um, but even internally in big organizations, and I have so many peers who talk about the same thing, we have to first evolve as people for the practice to evolve as a system. The system doesn't work if the people are not evolved enough to understand what they are working with, right? We make the system, whatever it is, whether it's AI enabled, whatever the mechanics are, we have created that based on what our needs are. The system almost also reflects the architecture of the company, the complexity of the company you're working on. It's not one size fits all. But if the people within your organization are not mentally there to A, accept it, B, work with it, and B, C, work together, then that system is useless. Then even if
But
you're,
what are you saying? Like, are we talking about like customer centricity in general? It's like, if people are not able to orientate whatever they are building, working on, reorientate it around the customer experience, or are you talking specifically about journey management? Like, what are you
I'm
thinking about?
talking about the first part when how we started, service designers actually making a very concentrated effort to
Mm.
understand each other's work and to understand how they work. Every service designer might have a completely different approach to service design within the same company. I think, yes, that some level of autonomy and freedom to explore how do you do research and how you manage knowledge is good, but there has to be a governance in place, which is agreed upon by a bunch of different people who represent different parts of the organization. I think that's key right now. Like, and that needs to happen really quickly. Because if you look at even the industry, some people are running wild with AI. They're fully like geared up, making prototypes and shipping prototypes. Like researchers are doing that. Some people are really behind.
Mm.
And I know we live in a capitalistic system, but I think as people, we need to kind of come together to understand our practice. If we really care about the practice, if we really care about the longevity of this practice, then our community needs to, in an organization, let's say I'm in Autodesk, we and Autodesk need to come together to understand where we are going next with the practice, which supports
Fascinating.
our.
Are you like let's take and learn from history a little bit. I mean, like let's take agile as an example, right? I
Yeah,
mean, a couple of principles designed by software engineers,
yeah,
and then some consultants came in and said, like, we're going to call it skilled agile framework. And then now we have all these roles from scrum masters and POs and rituals, and here's your delivery train, like what have you. Like they completely like standardized every little
yeah,
aspect of it.
yeah,
And as a result, nothing was agile anymore. It just
yeah,
became like long-term planning and
yeah,
infighting on roadmap decisions, let alone be customer-centric, right? Aren't
yeah,
we? Should we learn from the past? Where it's like, I mean, I'm with you. I would love to see like this, like there is just one standard and many large organizations are all like unifying, like this is the way we operate, customer-centric and marketing, sales, product. Like everyone is working in unison, like wonderful. But even to me, or someone who's been like trying to achieve that, it sounds like unachievable. And there's a much more simpler way to do it, where it's like strong standards loosely held, where
hmm
it's more flexible in reality than actually we like to think it should be.
I agree. But even to have those loosely held strong standards, can we bring people together and actually see what those standards are? What are your standards? What are my standards?
Right.
I think that's a gap. Nobody, and a bigger gap for journey management, because so many people are now doing journey management. We don't know who has what standards. Like, yes, you go to conferences and you see how
Mm.
people, you see the best version of someone's journey management, but the war story is still left behind. Like, how they got there. How
Right.
did you get there?
If you're enjoying this conversation, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast channel and leave a review. It makes all the difference. The Experience Edge podcast is where I interview business leaders, CX pioneers, and the best designers who share their insight on creating business impact, having an edge on the customer experience. If you want more exclusive content and behind the scenes access, check out the Experience Edge podcast on YouTube and LinkedIn so you don't miss a thing. Now let's get back to the conversation. But let's take an example then. Let's lead by example. Let's do it here on the spot. I mean, this
Yeah,
was not on the docket. Like, if you're
let's do
willing
it.
to play ball, let's do it. Like,
Let's
you
do it.
pick. Like, what do you want to set the standard for? Like, what is a great standard in your practice at Autodesk that works really well, that you're proud of, and like, what was the war story to get there? Like, let's do it.
Honestly, I'll keep something very simple. Search before you create, right? Look at existing information. And I am big on, like, people call me like the police when it comes to this kind of stuff, right? Like, if I know that an insight exists and I see a duplicate, it almost triggers like a very adverse reaction. That why did we not go through a 5-minute exercise to find out if what you are trying to find out in your project already exists? If
Hmm.
someone's already worked on it, why do we have this need of creating net new research when the information already exists, right? So I feel like that, and it's been good. Like the way to get there was just actually be police, just actually because. And I'm not saying people don't act with the negative intention. People are just so busy. You absolutely need someone who thinks and embodies governance, best practices. Someone has to embody it. I think with AI, it's going to be great because, like, I've been creating these documents with these best practices and I'm hoping that they can show up in people's workflows when they're mapping journeys or managing journeys, so that like they're prompted to like kind of upskill themselves and create a better research card and connect it to the next level. So it guides them as well, which is a task that a lot of the times used to be doing or still do. Um, but yeah, like search before you create. Just look at what's out there and allow existing information to to give you the next level of creativity rather than going blue sky on everything. You know, when I
Yeah.
joined the bank, and I can talk about that a lot more actually because I don't work there anymore. But it was like, oh, service design, blue sky, everything, and that is dangerous. Because like service designers, we're all on some kind of a spectrum. We can really go blue sky and never get work done. Like you have to have some kind of framework, some best practices that you follow to do good work. And I think it's just psychological safety. Like I'm very big on psychological safety for people with AI, and the only way to do that is to actually talk to each other, right? Like you have two researchers who are probably working on the same project, and both are claiming that they own the findings, and they're probably finding some similar things. How do you
Yeah.
solve for that? And this is common. This is common
But
in every
this
company.
is it. Like, I mean, having duplicate insights, like, it's super annoying, and many people
So
agree. But I think like you're spot on. The reason they're there is not because people accidentally are finding new things. They're not even lazy to that they don't want to search, but it's really like I can own something. Like if I create this finding myself by going through
yeah,
the data, talking to my customers, really understanding like the root cause of the problem well, so I have an insight. I mean, we can talk about what an insight is like separately, but like let's say a evidence-backed customer insight on some behavior or frustration that is like something we should address, right? So, but it's mine. I found it. I'm
yeah,
the smart person who did it.
yeah.
But the problem is, like, it's irrelevant. I had, and this is fascinating. Let me offer another standard. So I had JD Buckley from Synchrony Financial
Okay.
on, and she realized the same problem. Like, and to solve for that, maybe like duplicate insight. I don't know. We didn't even talk about duplicate insight, but they said like, hey, we need to have a better way to capture like what ultimately creates impact, both for the business and for the customer. So
Hmm.
what they did is say, okay, sure, like how does that customer insight, that like understanding the root cause of a particular problem, like transfer into like business impact? Well, there are stages between that. So first we want to know, does that insight even land on a roadmap, right?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then we have the cost of inaction. So even if I'm great, I found this insight, but my insight isn't used because that her insight is used, even though it was
Yeah.
the same,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that one landed on the roadmap. Like, you know, the cost of no action for me, and then the spending the time is like it's actually pretty costly. So I thought it was quite fascinating. Was it they just quote unquote democratized it by saying, here's all the recommendations. Let's see what lands on the roadmap. Let's see what actually gets shipped. Let's see what actually creates impact.
Yeah. That, to be honest, like I think they probably had some success with it, but that pits people against each other. Like who can get there faster? Now I can have the best relationships with PMs who I know are working on roadmaps. No matter who's doing what, my insight's gonna be there. You know, like it could get political. Like for me, it's about depoliticizing these things. You know, psychological safety is important in so many aspects where people want to have job security, people want to enjoy their work, not use their work to kind of like, yes, we want to use our work to get ahead in our careers, but like, if we are all in the same community, like we talk about service design as a community, but then members of that same community who work in one company will try to like, it gets cutthroat. And I've
Yeah.
seen that in multiple organizations. So for me, it's like, how do you create a space where people are actually happy that, hey, oh my God, you found this one thing. We were also finding the same thing. Oh, like, let's work on it together. Let's further it together. Imagine if two different teams who have service designers combine their people. right? While also now it's the leadership's responsibility to make the case to the organization that all of these people are relevant. Now we can do more,
Yeah.
and now we can collaborate more, and the business case and how they, like they were seeing overlaps, but now they can tackle more research and they can do more journeyman. All that they can, like we can go deeper into that. If the business case for keeping so many people and combining powers between two teams like that, I have not seen it happen. I haven't seen two different service design teams in the same organization partner together, like become like a pod of service designers who are tackling various pieces of the customer's experience. I have not seen that happen, but I think it's so crucial. Otherwise, we're always going to be stepping on each other's toes, right?
Yeah. Where do you think, or where do you see, like AI is actually aiding in this process? Because once it becomes architecture, like it's also the embodiment of complexity, right? It's like a lot of data,
Yeah,
a lot of nuance, a
yeah.
lot of like journeys, metrics. There's all these like different roadmaps. There's all these like new evidence coming in and out of the system all the time. So, how is AI aiding in the process without like solving for like the political or like the infighting, which is a different product to problem to solve? But like, how is AI helping? Like on the talking about standards, like what's working for you? Like, how are you thinking about it?
Yeah, so for us, like for journey management in general, like building baseline journeys is great with that. Right? You give it some knowledge sources that you can trust, or even you that are okay, like they're not that they don't have too much. Give it everything and ask it to create a journey. I mean, it might not be the amazing journey map a service designer creates with different color codings in a Miro, but it will still be good enough to start a conversation, and it will do it in seconds. So reduces that by weeks, right? Synthesis. For me, as someone who thinks about governance, the governance itself can be built in to whatever tool you're working on or whatever practice you have. You can have AI skills or agents that have the guardrails, the frameworks, the do's and the don'ts, and what are the things that show up in an insight. What is the insight? All of those things can now be automated. At least the guidance can be automated. I'm not saying AI should do that to you. I am totally against AI making decisions without having a layer of human intervention. Totally against it. But at least it does the whole, it looks at all of the resources, all of the best practices and guidance that might be missed out in a 30-minute call, for example, or you might not read a training document, but if AI has read it, is willing to just offer you the next best iteration of what you're working on, that saves you a lot of time. And then again, you need your community to come together, be honest about, hey, I used AI to create this. I think this is good enough. And for people to offer psychological safety and saying that, yeah, we work in an AI native world, so this is good enough. Let's not talk about, oh, AI this and AI that, and let's build it up. Let's identify the gaps. Let's be more proactive and friendly about this rather than like cutting each other's head off, you know? So, because AI can create great baselines. It can, you can, and you, even if you give it like very, very good information, good frameworks, still think it's a good baseline because it takes away a lot of that admin level thinking from us, and then we can just come together as professionals, as experts, and talk about making your insights better, talk about confidence levels, finding out other things. Actually, I want to go back to something you said about like someone's insight made it to the roadmap versus not. One of the things I realized, sizing your insight matters a lot, by the way. Not every insight can have the same grain size. And if you've worked with product teams, I'm sure you have, they don't like the big, oh, the onboarding experience is bad. They want to know. They're like, yeah, we know this. Of course, yeah, you did a lot of this research, interviewed 16 people, and you found out, oh, the onboarding experience is bad. Of course it's bad. Right? So, what do you actually solve? And product teams think about capabilities, right? I think service design still lacks that kind of understanding
Yeah.
and vocabulary to actually connect that Like I've seen product managers light up when you talk about capabilities within a certain experience. And if you can build a capability map of all of the capabilities mapped across that experience. I one time saw a service designer just a PM just almost cry, like, oh my God, this is everything, right? Like, and coming from a service designer that, oh, this is new, AI can do that. It can actually remove a language barrier. If you give it certain personas that assume the role of a service designer, assume the role of a PM, tell it what a PM cares about, tell him what a leader cares about, then the language it can use is a huge barrier that has existed till date, which can be removed now.
Yeah, and also like I'm seeing that like in your example, right, where you're giving the agent skills of like maybe even like finding these duplicate insights. Like by definition, when a new insight is created, you'll find like
Yeah,
the similar data if that's available. That's one thing. But like to your point, like let's say this is going to a product manager, like you as like the system designer, the architect can say, okay, well, I'll use this skill to actually like help them understand the capability behind the thing that you're recommending, rather than like come with like,
yeah,
oh, onboarding is crap, and here is maybe like the friction.
yeah. And
So and I think
first,
like
and first, you understand as the service designer the capabilities that are behind what you're recommending,
uh,
right? Like we need to take the next step from like high level strategic insights to more tactical insights. That's where journey management will start showing you real value. And there's an entire thing that I've been writing about organizational memory through journey management. It's one of the things that I really love about the practice. And it's probably another podcast, but probably tell you more about it later.
all right, let's take that for the second one. But I do think like maybe we can touch lightly on it, because in product organizations, this is also the topic du jour. But what I'm seeing is like why it's important. The moment that you're realizing like your product or your capability, whatever, is part of like someone's day to day, or
Yeah,
like part of like a bigger task they're completing in their
yeah,
work life,
yeah,
when they need your service, when they need your product, like all of a sudden like things start to click. Because what we are used to do is say, hey, we have a bunch of features, let's research like how the features are being used, and then let's prioritize like some improvements to them based on that. But we're missing out on a broader experience. Well, that might sound very easy, and
it's not.
yeah, in reality, like this is the link that you're talking about, right? We don't want to
Yeah,
hear onboarding is crap. No, no, no. We want to understand like users that are, having a second session in the onboarding, like they can't find their way back because they're just stuck halfway.
yeah.
That is causing a big dropout, and therefore like second time, like whatever it is, like that
Hmm.
level of detail
Yep,
is where you want to
absolutely,
get at.
absolutely.
But we're bringing like, okay, we need to fix onboarding, and we're going to go strategic with the business.
The
Like that's another
NPS is
pitfall that
so
we're seeing.
low. Yeah,
But you have to be able to travel both, right?
of
Because at some
course,
levels of the organization, like budgets are being unlocked to spin up a whole platform team that's going to do onboarding for this whole product portfolio,
of course,
right?
of
And
course.
you want to know if that's the right bet.
I always tell people that journey management is like having a very amazing folder system, right? A very organized filing system. It's that. Like you have different, like you have a executive ready insight that is like onboarding experience is bad. Okay, break it down. What about the onboarding experience is bad? Where in the life cycle is are those things within the onboarding life cycle phase? Like what are the things that users do? Where is the friction? Even that is very high level, by the way. That if someone is downloading your product and they're having issues, that's still very big. There could be 5 product teams that are working on that. Your company could have 200 products. Identify, then dig deeper. Dig deeper till you actually get to the actual capabilities and the grain size and the industries in which those customers are having issues. And you'll find that, yeah, like it wasn't as easy as you thought it was. And I think journey management and trying to like go deeper into like mapping capabilities, understanding capabilities, just that research into how the companies work has given me so much empathy for product managers. Honestly, it's given me a special level of understanding of their work and how complex that is. And that really service design as a function could really help unlock some of those things. But even service design right now, I haven't met service designers who have investigated like I've worked with some amazing service designers, so like I learned from them. But outside, I haven't met service designers who are that detailed. Like I've most of the times, if I'm in a conference or if I'm in some kind of a workshop outside, it's always very high level. But I do work with some people who are just absolutely phenomenal, and I learn how n- they are always appreciated by product managers because they're speaking the same language, right? If
Do
you're
you
talk,
think
if
like service designers should go and do more education in product management, or do you think they should go actually like take like a mini MBA and get more fluent in business?
well, that's the thing that AI can help with. You don't need an education. You, it's about honestly, like for all of this next level stuff that we talk about, it's literally communication where things break down. Literally the age-old problem. Let's talk to each other. And communication in with the context and empathy for someone else. So, like, let's say if I'm talking in English and you're talking in Dutch, we can have an entire conversation over each other without understanding anything. It takes an effort to understand who we are and to level set and speak at a level where you can engage the other person, right? So if you want to engage a product manager and for them to get excited, learn and understand their language. And I think AI can do that for you. If you give AI a MSON or JSON file where, okay, this is what a product manager cares about. But that requires a level of research. And I mean, we're researchers. This should be exciting stuff, right? Find out. Like, take one product manager, ask them what their week looks like. Let them interview them internally, and then give that entire file to your AI agent and be like, I want you to contextualize my finding so it makes sense to this person. And you,
One of the smart things I saw, like just like a sidetrack, but like I found it
yeah,
fascinating, is like some teams actually do this. Like they interview like specific people in the organization. Now there's
yeah,
PMs, also like other
yeah.
decision makers, like higher up in the chain, and interview them, right? So, and they bring all of that into like decision map, and that's like
Wow.
that's an artifact. Okay, so that's like one thing. They, like in your point, like they put it in their file system, right? It's a journey, literally, like it's a decision making journey.
Yeah.
But then they build an agent to then go over that whenever a decision needs to be made. And it's like, okay, who is it touching? Where is it going to be? And then it's like, oh, these are the steps we roughly follow. And therefore, the first step is this, and therefore this person will need to see it first, and therefore this is actually the way to communicate to them. And
Oh,
that's an
wow.
output. And but it is based on, and I think like that's what I actually want to talk to you about, like and ask you is like journeys, the customer journey, like as an organizing principle for data, is so fascinating because it actually pulls in all these different bits and pieces from these pre-existing teams that are all working apparently for the same customer experience. They never realized, but actually they do. And
Yeah.
when like we put it all in place, it becomes pretty complicated for people. But for AI, it's like wonderful. It's like very structured. I can
Yes.
follow the schema. I can
Yes.
understand what's related and what isn't. So when
Yes.
you combine it with a decision map like that, like it's like a
Oh,
superpower.
I am so fascinated by this decision map. I'm just trying to think like in the context of like company like Autodesk, like that would be a pretty insane thing to map, but I'm gonna actually try. Like that would be a great artifact to create and feed
Yeah,
it to
I
your
mean, I
AI.
mean, it's like sure, if you want to log every decision, like you're gonna be busy for the rest of your career, but you want to understand, like, okay, what are the critical moments when people do talk about specific roadmaps? When are the
Yeah.
critical moments when, like, we're changing, like, our OKRs? When are the moments that we're investing in,
Yeah.
different things? Like, just start there, right? It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be all encompassing. It's more like no, where is our work typically influencing the
Yeah, in my
business?
own domain, yeah, if I
Right.
can just start. And that, the thing is, the beautiful thing about any journey is that if you just start with the point you have, it will connect you everywhere. And, you just need to know how to use the resources you have. I'm just thinking about a time, hopefully it doesn't happen too soon, but imagine you're mapping a decision map, and eventually it leads you to an AI bot who's making the change, not a PM. That would
Easy.
really that is a scary thing actually. Um, but yeah, I've taken a note. I'm actually going to start working on that. That's a cool side project, and it might be super relevant. If people can understand who's working on what capability,
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah,
be
and
quite
it's
cool.
also like great for the people who are actually making these decisions or need to make trade-offs or like putting investment thesis together, like they want to have the information, right?
I mean, how much
What
of our
what
time do we spend finding the right person?
exactly? Yeah, okay, so finding the right person, but like the person is also like finding the right information, right?
Yeah.
2 days ahead of the meeting, like giving like marching orders to all his or her direct reports, like find me this, get me that, like put the
Yeah.
slides together, like help me build this. Like it's always the same.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
So they are helped
Fascinating.
with this as well. Yeah, maybe like a nice sidestep. Like I know we talked about like the change of role, but it's almost like um, and you've spoken about this before. It's like the concept of like shepherding
Hmm.
versus like you've been like in journey management, right? Which is quote unquote a management capability inside an
Hmm.
organization.
Hmm.
But you're shifting to be more like a shepherd. Like you want to talk a little bit about what that means to you?
Yeah, I like that word. It's gentle, in general. And again, I'm big on communications, vocabulary, psychological safety through actions and words. You have to tackle it both ways. So shepherding is a softer word. It lands better. Like I own a journey. It's a much stronger statement to make than I'm a shepherd of the journey.
Mm.
And it makes sense, right? We don't own anything. It's the customer's journey. It's the organization and the customer. We are just working to try to make it better. So we don't, and that's, I wanted to kind of move away from this ownership model because that kind of, one of the ways I wanted to depoliticize journeys and who works on what and is to go away from like, let's not think about what we own, think about what we shepherd in terms of experiences. So what it really means is like you are passionate or you are interested or you have been told by your leader that this is the area of focus for you in the customer's experience. A shepherd is really good at identifying the flock and then bringing the flock together, keeping it together, and going to a certain destination. That's the role. Take them with you on a journey to explore the customer's journey. And the flock will keep bringing other people in. So you start with some service designers about a certain area and be like, okay, this is the area of interest. What do you have? Let's all work in that. Let's all contribute to that. So it becomes like a contribution model almost, right? You share knowledge, you contribute to it without being touchy-feely about it. It's like we're
But
all
but
part.
why don't you like ownership? Like, is that like for this specific part of the organization or in general? Because I can imagine like it's also useful for people to like be accountable for retention,
100%.
for revenue,
100%.
for like whatever it is. And this almost sounds like we're gonna make like a community piece of working together. But because it is soft, the downside of this could be like people are just not taking it serious enough, especially in like hard organizations, like in many enterprises where there is infighting, where there is like this is mine, not yours, and therefore I own it. Like,
Yeah.
how do you think that gels?
Well, ownership in certain senses can prevent people from contributing. And that's the last thing you want. So if I'm being really customer centric, I want people to contribute to that experience, whatever they know. I take your point that yeah, like it could mean that there's no but accountability, but there is because a shepherd is still one person, and that person in a corporate sense belongs to a certain organization. So if you're shepherding the journey, then you are responsible, you are accountable, right? And there has to be governance about what is the responsibilities of a shepherd, what is the shepherd's work eventually judged on, or what are their OKRs. That has to be in place. Governance is super important. You can't get away from that. But for me, the vocabulary and the thought behind it, ownership could mean that you're a single person driving this entire thing. Shepherding has a philosophy behind it. You cannot become a shepherd without a flock. You need to bring people along. You need contributors. You need more eyes. You need more people to have give you their information about a journey, a customer's journey. And that if you have the framework, if you have those roles and responsibilities, if you have a RACI or whatever you want, then it could really work. really. Like it creates a level of invitingness to people to accept that we are not experts about something, but we want to lead it. So Shepherd will be the leader, but not in a sense that I'll tell you what to do and what not to do. I mean, people generally just want to have certain freedoms and want to be respected for their knowledge, right? So I feel like people take more warmly to this term while still being, we're all professionals. Like this is our day job, right? Like 9 to 5. Like this is what we're here to do. But with the ownership model, it can get tricky. It can. I think it's like I don't. Do we really own anything? Like so it can get like a bit political. And I try to think about okay, how do we while making sure people understand the role of a shepherd and that accountability and responsibility is not taken away from them, governance, good governance, still use language that is softer.
How do you reconcile the notion of a journey and the notion of a team? Because usually, like, so the easy way is like, okay, now we have journey teams, right? Ta-da, everything is great. Doesn't really work. Like you have to be very intentional, but to make that work. So what we typically see is like there's a journey that cuts across multiple teams.
Yeah.
Multiple teams need to work together to get this piece of the experience done, right? Great if you have a wonderful shepherd, like Kai is leading the way, but not always that's the case. So how do you reconcile like the notion of a team and the notion of a journey in an organization that typically doesn't have like journey teams end to end?
Oh, let me make it more complicated. You have a journey that is cutting through multiple experiences, multiple teams interested in that journey, multiple projects cutting through multiple journeys, cutting through multiple experiences, and then multiple squared capabilities across all projects, across all journeys. It's very complicated, right? There's the only way I see this, you have to understand your architecture, high level. You have to. There's no way out. You have to understand who lies where within the organization and within the customer's lifecycle context. You have to understand that. And then B, talk to each other. Instead of working with the 5 people that you trust or the 5 people adjacent to you, try to have a way to broadcast what you're doing widely. It doesn't take much. There's a lot of whatever. There's Slacks, there's emails, there's other connections. Democratize your work a little bit more. Is a really good way. I think again something AI could help with. If people are following best practices of putting their work in certain places, AI can kind of catch on to that and inform you what's going on in the organization, where it connects, and all that. But you still need, even at that architectural level, you need a shepherd. You need someone who understands. That's basically why I have a job. Right? Like I understand the architecture really well at the organization, and I've kind of mapped it as well. I understand, like, if there's 4 different customer journeys or different experiences, and there's a project that lands in the organization. Projects are very specific, actually, but one project can cut through multiple experiences because it's touching different parts. Like it's just a project. The people who started the project might not know that. The journey manager should know that. What are the experiences this particular project, based on the scope of the project, is going to influence? That is very important to actually have good solutions. One of the values, one of the promises of journey managers, and a byproduct of just doing journey management will be that anytime you have a project, you place it in your architecture and you'll know exactly the experience it's going to impact.
Should we see an organization design where, because you have this, right? You have like journey-oriented teams where there's also like enabling teams supporting that, like that cut across this, and then to your point, like projects initiated left and right, and they touch many experiences. But should there be a future where there is just like one model of the customer experience that maps onto the organization? And that's the only way like new initiatives get shaped. Is that what we should be striving to, or is that like utopia? And that's not the right way to think about it.
I don't think we can think about it that way. Because times change very quickly. We are now, there is about 5 different generations coexisting together who are all making money, opinionated, operating in the market. So there's boomers, there's millennials, Gen Z, Gen Y. I can count 5. So that's 5 different strategies. If they're all between the age of 20 and 70, and they're all active, then you can't have a one size fits all strategy. And even within them, let's just take millennials. Even within millennials, do you think every millennial is the same? Completely different based on their backgrounds. Some millennials were rich through their parents. They had rich boomer parents. Some millennials had not so rich boomer parents. They might have different world experiences. We are from different countries. The biggest one here, like in a place like America and Canada, and even in Europe, it's so diverse. We are all coming from different backgrounds, but we have different preferences. We might have the same or different levels of money, but for a business who's trying to target specific people and convert them and make them buy their products from a business standpoint, you will need to understand your entire customer base and kind of try to create some kind of like a bucket or a system where you can fit them. But it's not going to be one. I can guarantee you that, right? And there's so many frameworks out there that try to achieve that. But flexibility is key. Personalization in this day and age is going to be super important because now, of course, behavioral science has come a long way. Therapists have come a long way. They've helped a huge generation of people. Like our understanding of ourselves and our reactions to the market is so much more different than it was 10 years ago. Right? We like 10 years ago, just from my example, even like I didn't know what I necessarily wanted to buy. Like today, I know exactly who I am. So people are more aware, self-aware, even at a younger age. People who the concept of going through therapy, understanding yourself, all of that, it all plays a part. That's also one thing companies ignore to understand behavioral science. What people see, they don't understand. They're not that intimate. And then they create one-size-fits-all solutions, which don't work for many people. So I don't think we can think about one framework. Flexibility. So what you were saying initially, right? Like loosely follow for service designers, the same thing applies. Have commonly agreed principles loosely followed. I think for customers that would work too. Understand what human beings need at a behavioral level, and then kind of see what your customers are doing and apply it to them.
So to end on like some standards that you can loosely follow and implement in your organization, like what would be a good example? And I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like what would be a good example of like an agent, a skill for your agent, like that is actually like helping you to travel across these different teams in a more useful way, but actually like following what you just said, like how to make it much easier for people to collaborate more effectively. Like what will be one agent that you recommend people build, create, whether it's a skill or a sequence of skills, however you want to put that, who are already having like this journey architecture in place and are now going to the next level. Like let's hear Kai's like standard that you can like loosely define. And I was rambling a little bit on purpose so you could like have some time to think about it.
Yeah, this is a what is the so if I'm going to repeat that question back to you, what is the agent that we could build that would get the most out of all the teams working on these experiences? Like, is that the gist of it?
I would make it simpler. I would say like, what is the one that you're gonna build next, or maybe we already have created it, that actually helps us getting a little bit more closer together. Whether that's between the different generations that are operating in this
Yeah.
company,
Yes.
whether that's like between different
Yes.
teams, like or different roles that are not speaking the
Yes.
same language. Like, what would you, advise people to build next to not only bring the customer perspective in, but also adhere to like the many differences of approaches, frameworks, thoughts in the business to level the playing field a little bit?
Yeah, I think, well, I think a lot of people are working on the benchmarks, like industry benchmarks, an agent that kind of marries industry's best practices, any innovations that have been made that have been taken really well. Um, Customers are always contributing to forums about, oh my God, this product changed my life. Look at those wow moments that people have had, see how they relate to you, um, and then give you like a baseline understanding of where you need to go, right? Like for legacy companies, banks or old tech giants, I think they could really use that kind of insight into, okay, this is what's working for people. And maybe this might be too much to ask for, but to also tell that if this what people are experiencing now, if it will radically change because of AI. So the AI should tell us how fast it will change in the next 2 to 3 months. So if you're going to build something, build it in 2 months. Otherwise, wait for me to change so you can build something. If AI can tell me that, listen, I'm about to change this drastically based on whatever OpenAI is working on, maybe that would be great. Because
So
I mean,
basically telling people like to predict the future, like of course, that will be
yeah,
wonderful.
predict the future relevant to me at least. Yeah. Yeah, I don't even know if I'd like to have AI or anything predict the future. I kind of like the uncertainty sometimes.
No, but what you're saying I think is good. Like we're thinking about like building agents that help to analyze faster or map journeys faster or like um,
Yeah.
give me a
And
point of view faster. But what you're saying is no. Let's actually like build AI so it's actually helping us to jump across the different teams and get faster to people that need to see this or
yeah,
like have access to this that maybe in by definition don't have access to that.
yeah. If AI can give me context, not just the customer's context, but internal organizational context of why a customer. So I want AI to create a journey for me. Okay, done. That exists already. But then I want AI to go deeper into every phase of that journey and tell me why that exists the way it does today. The why, the company's why. What changed? Why did it end up this way? What does it impact? That, and then most importantly, who is the responsible and accountable party in this part of the experience? That map that you talked about, I think it's going to be stuck in my brain until I start working on it. Like I'm actually itching to like just be like, I want to start on it. It's so cool. But
All right.
if it can do all of that and give me the context I need to then start getting people together, that could reduce a lot of politics and that could enable a lot of collaboration.
That's it.
Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
it.
I'm gonna let you off the hook because then you can create it. By the time this airs, you can maybe like share
Have
with
it.
people how this is going for you. Um, Guy, we talked about community a little bit, and I know you are a big proponent of like bringing people together, and you're generously sharing also all the knowledge and the wisdom that you've accumulated over these years. Like, if people want to reach out, need your eyes on something, or just want to share their standards, or like exchange notes, like I think you're open to it. So, where would be the place they can do that best? Reach out to you.
They can reach to me at my personal email, and I can share that as well. It's like, should I just spell it out, or should I? It's so Lasi dot Khayyam, Khayyam at gmail.com. So my last
Wonderful.
name dot my first name at gmail.com. It's an open line, or if you're gonna watch this, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active in all sorts of communication channels. For some reason, I'm very active, so you'll get a response very quickly.
We're gonna make you an influencer, Kai. Let's see where that
Hey,
takes
I
us.
probably already am.
All right. There you go. So please reach out to Kai. I mean, I've had many conversations with him outside of this podcast also to really get into the weeds and what actually is happening in his world. So much to share, much to exchange. Always enjoy talking to you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope this was super useful for everyone listening. And like you said, this is not the last time we'll chat. So I'll take the rain check and I'll take you on the next time. But for today, thank you.
Thank you, Jochem. I know it's very late where you are, so I hope you get some rest. And thank you so much for having me. It's truly been a pleasure.
All right, and that's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this valuable today, don't forget to subscribe to the Experience Edge on your favorite podcast channel, leave a review, and share it with your team. I'd be delighted. Today's episode was brought to you by Daydo, the AI journey management solution for enterprise. To have an edge on your business strategy and to know why your customers do what they do, visit daydo.com and explore more resources to accelerate your customer experience game. And remember, the journey to creating customer-centric impact never ends, and here's always a new edge to discover in doing things differently. Next week, new episode. Until then, keep pushing the edge and stay inspired. See you in the next episode.